Metal Gear Solid was a roaring success, no surprise really. Your boy Kojima was intrigued by the PS2 and wanted to grab the hardware's power by the hair and give it a bloody good seeing to. The Metal Gear Solid 2 trailer debuted at E3 2000 and everyone creamed their big girls' pants. Ooh, it's in 60 frames a second and looks really nice. Yeah, great, let's focus on visuals instead of gameplay. Nice to see how much we've evolved, isn't it? It did have everything fans wanted to see though, and that was Solid Snake being cool. Then the game came out and you actually played as Raiden. But that's getting ahead a bit, so let's talk story. After the end of Metal Gear Solid 1, Ocelot leaked the Metal Gear's blueprints onto the black market, so now every country, corporation and porn producer has one. Even Snake's neighbour has one to help mow the lawn. Snake and Otacon have joined an organisation that seeks to expose anyone who owns a Metal Gear. They get a tip the US Marines have one and it is being transported on the Hudson River, so Snake goes to intercept it by diving off a bridge and ripping off Terminator, but then some dirty Russians infiltrate the ship as well and murder most of the Marines. And thus begins the tanker chapter. Snake has to explore the ship, find the Metal Gear, get some pictures of it, even though this is an age where Photoshop exists, so it may be a bit hard to convince people the pictures are genuine, especially when every twat on the internet thinks they are a private detective. Reddit. Snake also has to find out why the Russians have taken the boat. This chapter is a bit like Ground Zeroes, a nice little taster of the main game, and then the actual sequel comes and ruins it. You get to try out all the new mechanics and controls. The new first-person aiming mechanic was bloody useful. It allowed you to lean and also go on your tiptoes whilst aiming to pull off that well-aimed shot. You had so many options right out of the gate. It can make the game pretty easy though. You get a tranquilizer quite early on in both chapters of the game, and one headshot is enough to take a guard down. You can also hide in lockers as well as hide guards' bodies in them, hang over edges, forward roll as Snake, which is hilarious when you do it into an enemy. Raiden does a cartwheel instead because he's younger and won't break a hip. And of course the returning favourite, banging on the wall and running away. It was an absolutely incredible moveset at the time. The way it opened up your gameplay options was off the chain, however the controls could be very fiddly at times. Leaning whilst aiming in first person was useful, sure, but you had to hold R1, then press L2 to lean, hold square to ready your gun, then use the left stick to aim and release square to shoot. Oh, and if you don't actually want to fire, you have to let go of square very slowly because this game uses pressure sensitive controls at points. And you may as well pray to God because they have a mind of their own. It's especially annoying when you're holding up a guard for one of the game's collectibles, dog tags, and you end up accidentally shooting him in the face. But other than that, it is a top tier gameplay experience. It's pretty easy to feel like an absolute ghost, and it never really feels unfair or obtuse because you have so many options to approach situations. So as Snake, you go through the tanker, rolling, crawling, tranking, talking to Otacon about jeans and shooting pregnant women. No, seriously, you get into a shootout with this Russian bird, Olga, who becomes quite a central character later on, and you put enough trank darts in her to take down a blue whale. It's a miracle her child is born without any birth defects. Eventually, Snake reaches the Metal Gear, takes photos of it, then Ocelot turns up, shoots the Marines leader, then the Russians leader, and takes Metal Gear for himself. Snake shouts at him a bit, and it turns out Liquid from Metal Gear Solid 1 is living on through his arm, which Ocelot had grafted onto the one Grey Fox sliced off in the first game, so he has dual personalities. What? I hope he didn't finger anyone with that hand. Liquid Ocelot then sinks the tanker and Snake is presumed dead. Phew, I thought. What an opening. I can't wait to see what happens from here. Be careful what you wish for, eh? So 2 years later, a new Snake is sent into the Big Shell oil cleanup facility to save the US president from terrorists and to stop them from destroying the structure and causing a massive environmental disaster in the exact same spot the tanker was sunk 2 years ago. Mystery is thrown into your face straight away though, as it is clear someone else has infiltrated the facility. I wonder who. You go through a bit that's very similar to the lift bit in the first game, then the new Snake takes off his mask and ooh, the hair game. Meet Raiden, ladies and gents, the man who had Metal Gear fans shriek in terror. Everyone thought they were going to play as Snake and they got Raiden. I like anything that boils people's piss, so it's fine by me, and in all honesty I feel sorry for Raiden. He gets a lot of stick, which I think he doesn't deserve. The common complaint is, ooh, he whines too much. Okay, you try and infiltrate a heavily guarded facility with the president's life in your hands, horrendously outmanned and gunned, and to top that off, your missus is moaning in your ear the whole time. How can you do all that and not have a little complaint? I would be moaning like a deaf girl having an orgasm. Speaking of Raiden's missus, Rose, she is your save game codec, so you can't avoid calling her, and every time you do she goes on and on, moaning about their relationship. Never once thinking, maybe I am being a bitch here. My boyfriend is on a mission that could save a lot of lives, but no, she thinks she is more important.
Jack, do you remember what day tomorrow is?
The day I dump you, you slag! And she phones up at random points too in calls you can't ignore so she can have another pop at the poor bloke. Look, Raiden, you're a good looking lad. Just sort yourself out with a new haircut and you could probably find yourself a better bird than Rose. You can tell she's the kind of bird who stops Raiden going out with the lads on nights out because she wants attention. Bitch. So Raiden sets off to save the US president and stop the dirty terrorists, and quite soon you realise how similar Metal Gear Solid 2 is to the original. Fair enough, there is a story reason for that which I will cover at the end. You infiltrate the facility from underwater, a bloke has a heart attack when you rescue him, there is a cyborg ninja helping you out, you fight a jet instead of a helicopter, you get electrocuted, and there is another Snake at the head of the terrorists, Solidus Snake, another clone from the Les Enfants Terribles project. Apparently he is the closest clone to Big Boss, therefore thinks he is superior. The guards are much smarter and are still absolutely brutal if you get spotted, and it brings across the real lonely and outmatched atmosphere from the first game as well, but it is a bit more nerve-wracking because Raiden is more or less a complete rookie. Now you may think it wasn't a bad idea being similar to Metal Gear Solid 1, as it was a great game, and with the massive gameplay improvements 2 brought in, it should have been an absolute banger. Well, no. For one, the Big Shell is a boring environment, lots of orange corridors, backtracking and absolutely no personality to it, unlike Shadow Moses. The supporting cast is also a lot weaker. I already covered Rose. Colonel Campbell comes back. He sounds really robotic and emotionless at points, but if you have played the game, you know why that is, so well done there, Mr. Actiman. There's a soldier called Pliskin who you make friends with early on, but he might as well just walk into the room and say, I am Solid Snake, my nigger, and obviously wherever Snake is, Otacon is, so he is in as well. But every other character tells their life story or waffles on and then dies. That might be because the writing in Metal Gear Solid 2 isn't that great. What could be said in one sentence is dragged out for far too long, which makes the cutscenes go on for ages. It just makes the general pace of the game very uneven. You walk down a corridor, cutscene, then walk a few more steps and run into another one, but this time it's even longer. Fair enough, the cutscenes are there to explain what is going on, but with a good editor on board they could have been a lot shorter, giving more time for the new gameplay enhancements to shine and improve the overall pace of the game. A lot of the writing is Kojima going, guess what pal, I know about this, I've read some books about conspiracies. Yeah, well done Kojima, you're not as clever as you think you are. Everyone figured out you were the medic from Ground Zeroes in Metal Gear Solid 5 2 years before the twatting thing came out. Okay, the story is pretty intriguing throughout, and Raiden throws up a lot of questions that you, as the player, are asking, and they get explained at a good pace. Then you get to the ending where it gets right up its own arse. Essentially, Raiden's mission was set up by the Patriots, a super secret group who manipulate world events to create the world they want. They are above governments and basically everyone. The mission is set up to test the Patriots' new AI system, GW, that will take over from the Patriots when they have passed on. It controls information in the digital age to control history and the present as well, censoring any information that threatens the Patriots' agenda. Basically, it's like the Illuminati in AI form. It recreates Shadow Moses as a test to see if it can manipulate world events. Raiden is the Solid Snake role, Solidus Snake is the Liquid Snake role because of his relationship with Raiden. Solidus was Raiden's commander when he was a child soldier. A grim backstory that with some fleshing out could have garnered Raiden some sympathy with the fans, but it is skimmed over in one of Kojima's "I know about this pal and it's bad" moments. Raiden has to take him down at the end to complete his mission in a sword fight. Bit gay, but whatever. If it is a recreation of Shadow Moses, Kojima, why did I have to do that awful swimming bit with Otacon's sister? Oh, what's that, love? You're scared of water? Shame, stay here and drown then. And after you've done all that shite, getting rid of bugs as well because she is a girl and has to be scared of them, she has the cheek to go and die. Speaking of other people who have the cheek to go and die, we have Olga, who plays the cyborg ninja role. She is forced to do so by the Patriots because they have her child, who was born without any birth defects, by the way, apparently, and if she does not cooperate, they will kill it. Fair enough. You would think she would be desperate to survive and reunite with her child, but then she goes and sacrifices herself, telling Raiden to run when he clearly has nowhere to run, the stupid cow. To take on the role of the Genome Army and Foxhound, we have the Russians and Dead Cell, the gayest, moaniest bunch of villains ever. You have Vamp, a complete cunt who dances around like he's in Billy Elliot and thinks he is an immortal vampire. Not when you get HIV from all that blood you're ingesting, you twat. Fortune, who again thinks she is immortal because bullets glide around her, but constantly whines about wanting to die. Love, drive a knife into your jugular, or jump off the big shell, it's a massive drop. Or put your face in the jet engine as it starts up, that will make short work of ya. Then Fat Man, the less said about him the better, and Solidus Snake, who probably watched too much tentacle porn. All these boss fights are shite, by the way, with them, especially Vamp. You can just sit in the corner with the grenade launcher and nail him. Could you imagine this apparent greatest anti-terrorist unit in the world storming ISIS HQ? They would see a bender who thinks he is a vampire, a woman, and we all know how they feel about them, a fat bloke on roller skates, and a bloke who thinks he's an octopus. They die from laughing at them before detonating their vests. I would try to explain what Ocelot is doing, but who knows at this point. At first, it looks like he is with the terrorists, like in Metal Gear Solid 1. Then it turns out he's working for the Patriots, overseeing the operation to make sure it runs smoothly. And then right at the end, he steals another Metal Gear and fucks off before all the shit hits the fan. And then Snake dives in the ocean after him. Not the cleverest of moves. A tiny man versus a nuclear submarine on steroids, underwater. The greatest soldier who ever lived, everyone. You might be asking, well, what is Snake's role in the game? Snake and Otacon turn up to destroy Arsenal Gear, which contains the AI. Otacon's sister tipped them off because she was the main designer. The AI that is actually Colonel Campbell shits its pants a few times through the game because the Patriots believed Snake to be dead and didn't consider him to be part of the mission. Snake and Otacon used Liquid's body as a decoy because they have the same DNA. Hang on, the greatest secret society in the world never thought to check his teeth, hair, eyes, height and body weight and injuries because remember, Liquid probably had loads of bullet wounds in him as well as dying from fox dye. Whereas Snake would have presumably drowned, and the Patriots knew full well Liquid was dead after Shadow Moses. Why didn't they make sure there were two bodies with identical DNA, one for Liquid and one for Solid? Also, how did Snake get hold of the body? Did they just have it on hand? Did they steal it from Ocelot when he had it for a spare hand? Fuck it, if I think too hard about this plot, my head might explode. Solidus wanted GW because it contained the identity of the Patriots. However, when Snake and Raiden destroy it and defeat Solidus, the data is gone, or so they think. Snake manages to pull it out his arse at the end, I don't know how. Something about Otacon's sister and the power of incest. And the ending conversation reveals that the data on the disc contain the identities of 12 people, but they all died over 100 years ago. Dun 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 dun. I have just explained the finer points of the plot in about 7 minutes. The last codec conversation in the game with the AI takes 15 minutes to explain the fact it is an information filtering AI. Not even joking. However, it is pretty cool that a script written in 1999 has accurately predicted a lot of what is happening today, with governments attempting to censor the internet and the net neutrality stuff that is going on this very moment. Metal Gear Solid 2 was ahead of its time in that respect. I did find the game quite unnerving on my first playthrough because I didn't know what was going on, and Colonel Campbell gets really weird out of nowhere, but on my second playthrough it was cool to see all the clues that were there all along. Kind of a bummer though that the script is just so bloated with unnecessary shite. It makes what is a complex story harder to follow. It does make sense and feels complete at the end, just could have been more coherent. All the ingredients were there, it controlled amazingly, looked amazing, but just fell short in a few key areas like its environment design and plot. Don't get me wrong, it is well worth playing the once. In fact, it is totally necessary if you want to understand the plot of all the future games, until Metal Gear Solid 5 ruined it all.